here in the valley today. Traffic is severe.
Report of a motor vehicle crash with injury, Interstate 80 and State Road, for Engine 3, Engine 4, A1.
Engine 4 responding. Engine 3 is responding. District 4, map page, Edward at 10 north.
When we arrived on scene, we found two vehicles involved in a crash.
PD on scene, we're clean up.
We had an unconscious patient in the driver's seat of one of the vehicles.
The vehicle involved is a hybrid vehicle.
Can you hear me?
Battalion 1, Spectrum Command.
Reading rate about 12, close about 15.
Because of the patient's condition, the incident commander ordered extrication operations.
Traffic, lots of it. And somewhere in all this traffic, there are hybrid and electric vehicles, more and more of them every day. You might not notice them because they often look like regular cars. But in a crash, electric vehicles pose a potentially life-threatening hazard. As emergency first responders, you need to know how to protect yourself and your patient when extrication is required from an electric vehicle. The typical electric vehicle has enough voltage to kill you if you don't know how to handle it. But don't worry, your basic procedures will be almost exactly the same as those for a conventional vehicle, with a few additional steps. Hybrid electric vehicles use both an electric motor and an internal combustion engine for propulsion. The internal combustion engine also charges the high-voltage battery, which provides power to the electric motor. Some hybrid electric vehicles can charge from an electrical source. Electric vehicles use only an electric motor for propulsion. EVs must always charge from an external power source.
Radio Engine 21, this will be injuries. We're assisting PD on scene with cleanup.
When you arrive at a crash scene, first follow all standard safety practices and always use appropriate personal protective equipment. For vehicle incidents, full turnout gear, helmet, and face shield or goggles are required. Another standard safety practice should be to assume that any vehicle involved in a crash could be an electric vehicle, until proven otherwise. The safety of patients and emergency responders is always the first priority. Follow this three-step approach. Identify the propulsion system of the vehicle, immobilize the vehicle, and finally, disable it.
Sir, were you involved? Were you injured?
Identification of the vehicle begins at size up. In this case, the badge indicates that the vehicle with the patient is a hybrid electric. Because this is an electric vehicle and the patient requires extrication, these emergency first responders know they must take special precautions to avoid electrical hazards. Many electric cars will look just like regular cars, but will usually have indicators that it's an electric vehicle. If it's a hybrid or EV, a badge will often feature the word hybrid or a logo or trademark indicating electric propulsion. In some cases, you will identify the car by its model name. Look for badges on the trunk, fenders, and doors. If the badge is hidden or damaged, there are other ways to tell if the vehicle is electric. Inside the engine compartment, look for emblems identifying the vehicle and warning labels on the high voltage components and wiring. Orange cables should be avoided and never cut or disconnected. If you have access to the interior, look at the instrument cluster. There could be a logo on the dashboard or special indicators found only on electric vehicles. Charge assist indicators, a charge level, a ready indicator, a hybrid system indicator, a charge activator, a power button, a power bar.
Dispatch confirming two-car motor vehicle accident. Have one.
Remember, until it is immobilized, approach the vehicle from the sides. Electric vehicles often don't make any noise. The car might be on, and it could start moving if the vehicle is in gear and the brake is released, or if the accelerator pedal is pushed. Immobilize the vehicle as always by chalking the wheels to prevent movement. If extrication is required, stabilize the vehicle before you begin.
We get stabilized, we're gonna have to extricate them, okay? Okay.
Because of the condition of the patient, the incident commander has given the order to cut the vehicle. Quickly place the vehicle in park, shut off the ignition, and remove the key. Then, to disable the high voltage system, disconnect the 12-volt battery.
Batteries cut, disabled.
Immobilize and disable. These are the same steps you follow for cars with internal combustion engines. Once the vehicle has been disabled, proceed with the extrication. In many electric vehicles, the ignition is a start-stop button. Push it to shut down the car. Many hybrids and EVs use proximity keys, which must be present to operate the start-stop button. If the vehicle has a proximity key, manufacturers recommend moving it at least 16 feet away so the ignition button cannot be operated. If the proximity key can't be found quickly, don't waste valuable time looking for it. Once the 12-volt power is disconnected, the proximity key system is disabled as well. All electric vehicles have at least 2 batteries. The high-voltage battery supplies power to the electric motor, and a standard 12-volt battery runs the car's other systems. The high-voltage battery typically produces between 100 and 400 volts DC, enough to cause serious injury. Future hybrids and electric vehicles might have even higher voltages. High-voltage systems are isolated from the vehicle's chassis, so you can touch the car without coming in contact with electricity. Hybrid and electric vehicles also have multiple safety systems, including fuses and ground fault protection that shut down the high voltage in the event of a fault or short. Crash detection systems also function to shut down the high-voltage electrical system. In most cases, if the airbags have deployed, the high-voltage system will have been automatically disabled.
2, 3.
Be aware that these high-voltage systems can kill you. The voltage is much higher than in a normal vehicle. You must disable the high voltage before proceeding with extrication. The high voltage batteries are either nickel metal hydride or lithium ion, both considered dry cell. The electrolyte is a gel-like substance which will only leak a few drops if the battery is damaged and individual cells are ruptured. The high voltage battery is protected by the vehicle structure or inside a steel case. In many hybrids, the high-voltage battery is in the trunk. In electric vehicles, the battery can typically be found under the second-row seat. The high-voltage circuit requires 12-volt battery power to operate. Disconnecting the 12-volt battery shuts down the high-voltage system. In many hybrids and electric vehicles, if you can't get to the 12-volt battery, you might be able to remove the fuse that controls the high-voltage system. Now, in this particular vehicle, that fuse is located right here. And if you can't identify the specific fuse, then pull all of them. Now, some manufacturers suggest disabling the vehicle by removing the high-voltage service disconnect, also known as the manual disconnect or the service plug. Check the manufacturer's emergency response guide to find out the recommended shutdown procedure.
We're going to have to make this roof swap to all assume extrication.
The electrical system must be completely disabled before beginning extrication procedures to rescue the patient. As in a conventional vehicle, always be aware of the location of the occupant protection systems before cutting.
You got behind there.
High voltage components and cables are not located at the typical cut points used in extrication. Still, always verify that no electrical hazard or airbag inflators are present before conducting extrication operations.
Windows next. All right.
Also keep in mind that many electric vehicles have high-strength steel in the frame, so be prepared with adequate cutting tools. The number of electric vehicles on the road will continue to increase in the coming years. Some will be improvements of existing vehicle types, and some will employ completely new technologies. As emergency first responders, we must stay current with all these developments and know how to protect ourselves and our patients during rescue operations.
21, Fire System PD on scene with cleanup.
From now on, you must assume that any car could be an electric vehicle until you confirm that it's not.
Go.
Patients can be saved or spared serious long-term injury, and rescue operations can be safer when emergency first responders are properly trained to handle electric vehicles in a crash.
The charter in.